Leading Case 13 Vishaka and Ors. V. State of Rajasthan and Ors. In this video, we delve into the landmark ruling of Vishaka and Ors. V. State of Rajasthan and Ors, a pivotal case that has had a profound impact on legal reforms and rights protection in India. This Supreme Court judgment, also known as the Vishaka Judgment, laid the groundwork for the Vishaka Guidelines, which have been instrumental in promoting gender justice and gender equality. The case highlights the importance of judicial activism and state intervention, particularly in cases of sexual harassment and sexual violence. It's a testament to the power of the Indian judiciary in promoting women's rights and women empowerment. Join us as we explore the significance of this landmark ruling and its lasting impact on the legal landscape of India. Hi, I am Advocate Dr. Saurabh Kapoor, bringing you a video on this fascinating topic like this. But before you start watching this video, I request you to kindly like, subscribe and hit the bell icon to my YouTube channel to view videos like this more. Please leave a comment below telling your thought and idea about this video and future videos you want. Kindly share this video with your friends, family and social groups to spread this knowledge. Did you know that the landmark case of Vishaka and Ors, the state of Rajasthan, laid down the first guidelines for preventing sexual harassment in the workplace in India? This ruling was a game changer for women's rights and workplace safety. Facts of the case. Banwari Devi, a woman belonging from Bateri, Rajasthan, started working under the Women's Development Project run by the government of Rajasthan in the year 1985. She was employed as a sadhan, which means friend in Hindi. In the year 1987, as a part of her job, Banwari took up an issue of attempted rape of a woman who hailed from a neighboring village. For this act, she gained full support from the members of her village. In the year 1992, Banwari took up another issue based on the government's campaign against child marriage. This campaign was subjected to disapproval and ignorance by all the members of the village, even though they were aware of the fact that child marriage is illegal. In the meantime, the family of Ramkaran Gurjar had made arrangements to perform such a marriage of his infant daughter. Banwari, abiding by the work assigned to her, tried to persuade the family to not perform the marriage, but all her attempts resulted in being futile. The family decided to go ahead with the marriage. On 5 May 1992, the sub-divisional officer along with the deputy superintendent of police went and stopped the said marriage. However, the marriage was performed the next day and no police action was taken against it. Later, it was established by the villagers that the police visits were a result of Banwari Devi's actions. This led to boycotting Banwari Devi and her family. Banwari also lost her job amid this boycott. On 22 September 1992, to seek vengeance, 5 men, i.e., 4 from the above-mentioned Gurjar family, Ramsukh Gujjar, Gyarza Gujjar, Ramkaran Gujjar, and Badri Gujjar, along with one Shravan Sharma, had attacked Banwari Devi's husband and later brutally gang-raped her. The police had tried all possible ways to avoid filing any complaint against the accused, which resulted in a delayed investigation. Even after facing so much criticism, Banwari Devi, with her incessant determination to get justice, managed to lodge a complaint. The medical examination was delayed for 52 hours. However, the examiner did not mention any commission of rape in the report, but rather mentioned the age of the victim. In the absence of sufficient evidence and with the help of the local MLA Dhanraj Meena, all the accused managed to get an acquittal in the trial court. But this acquittal resulted in a huge backlash from many women activists and organizations which supported Banwari. These organizations came together and raised their voice to attain justice, which resulted in the filing of a public interest litigation. The PIL was filed by a women's rights group known as Vishaka. It laid its focus on the enforcement of the fundamental rights of women at the workplace under the provisions of Article 14, 15, 19, and 21 of the Constitution of India. It also raised the issue of the need for protection of women from sexual harassment at workplace. Issues raised in the case. Whether sexual harassment at the workplace amounts to a violation of rights of gender inequality and right to life and liberty. Whether the court could apply international laws in the absence of applicable measures under the existing. Whether the employer has any responsibility when sexual harassment is done to by its employees. Petitioner's arguments. A writ petition, seeking the writ of mandamus, was filed by the Vishaka group, which comprised of various women's rights activists, NGOs, and other social activists. They put forward their argument that the indecent acts of sexual harassment of women at workplace violate the fundamental rights enshrined under Article 14, 15, 19 and 21 of the Constitution of India. The petitioners brought the attention of the Honorable Court to the loophole that the legislation has regarding the provision of a safe working environment for women. They requested the Honorable Court to frame guidelines for preventing sexual harassment at workplace. Respondents' arguments. The learned Solicitor General appearing on behalf of the respondents in this case did something unusual, i.e., supported the petitioners. The respondent assisted the Honorable Court in figuring out an effective method to curb sexual harassment and in structuring the guidelines for the prevention of the same. Fali S. Nariman, the amicus curiae of the Honorable Court, along with Ms. Naina Kapoor and Ms. Meenakshi, provided assistance to the Honorable Court in dealing with the said case. Judgment of the case. The lack of a law that would prevent sexual harassment and provide women with a safe working environment was acknowledged by the Honorable Supreme Court of India. Section 354 and 354A of the Indian Penal Code, 1860 were to be referred in any case of sexual harassment, but these provisions were not specific to the issue at hand. This made the Honorable Court realize the need for proper and effective legislation that would deal with sexual harassment. The Honorable Court took reference from the international conventions to proceed with the case. It referred to the Beijing Statement of Principles on the Independence of Judiciary in the Law-Asia region, to function as a guardian of citizens' rights and independently make laws in the absence of any legislative framework. Then the Honorable Court took reference from the provisions of Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination against Women. They were Article 11 and, which states that the state takes all appropriate measures to eliminate discrimination against women in the field of employment. Article 24, which states that the state shall undertake to adopt all necessary measures at the national level aimed at achieving the full realization. The Honorable Supreme Court framed the guidelines to prevent sexual harassment at the workplace, known as Vishaka Guidelines, that were to be treated as law declared under Article 141 of the Indian Constitution. These guidelines were the foundation for the Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Act, 2013. The Vishaka Guidelines. Employers or other equivalent authorities, duty employer or other responsible persons are bound to preclude such indecent incidents of sexual harassment from happening. In case such an act takes place, then the organization must consist of a mechanism to provide prosecutorial and conciliatory remedies. Definition: for this purpose, sexual harassment means disagreeable sexually determined behavior, direct or indirect, as physical contact and advances, a demand or request for sexual favors, sexually colored remarks, showing pornography, any other unwelcome physical, verbal or non-verbal conduct of sexual nature. Measures for prevention: employers or persons in charge of the workplace must take preventive measures such as an express prohibition of sexual harassment in the form of notifications or circulars, penalties by the government against the offender, appropriate work conditions in respect of hygiene, health and leisure. Proceedings in case of misconduct if the offenses committed are the ones that fall under the purview of the Indian Penal Code, 1860, then the employer is bound to take prosecutorial action by complaining to the appropriate authority. Appropriate disciplinary action: if there is an occurrence of the violation of service rules, appropriate disciplinary action must be taken. Redressal mechanism: an organization must have a redressal mechanism to address the complaints. This must be irrespective of the fact that whether the act constitutes an offense under the Indian Penal Code, 1860, or any other law as such. Redressal committee: such a redressal mechanism, or more precisely such a complaint committee, must have women as more than half of its members and its head must be a woman. The committee must comprise of a counseling facility. It is also acceptable to collaborate with NGOs or any such organizations which are well aware of such issues. A report must be sent to the government annually on the development of the issues being dealt by the committee. Spreading awareness: to raise sexual harassment issues, employer-employee meetings must be held. The employer must take appropriate actions/measures to spread awareness on the said issue. Critical analysis. Through the Vishaka case, the Honorable Supreme Court of India took a great step towards the empowerment of women by issuing guidelines to curb sexual harassment at workplace. The Honorable Court took reference from various international conventions and laws in the absence of domestic law, then connected it to the law of the land and gave birth to a new law altogether. The efforts put in by the Indian judiciary, in this particular case to safeguard women, is commendable. The Honorable Court through the Vishaka Guidelines provided a strong legal platform for all the women to fight against sexual harassment boldly. The Vishaka case changed the outlook towards sexual harassment cases as serious issues, unlike the past when such cases were looked upon as petty matters. Like every coin has its two sides, based on the Vishaka case, one can figure out that though India tried to overcome the social evils of gender inequality and sexual harassment by providing employment and provisions of law, it did not succeed in taking social responsibility for an equally safe working environment. Even after having the law on our side to safeguard women, there are many incidents of sexual harassment taking place regularly which get unreported. As a small example, let us assume that a woman finally gets her dream job in a software company. The woman is subjected to sexual harassment due to some reason. She wants to go and lodge a complaint against the one who harassed her, but she chooses not to do it. She is worried that if she complains, then she might not be able to continue working in the company because her family members might stop her. Why? Cause the family fears that the woman has been harassed once, so she might be harassed again. The concern of people even today is that the female of their house must learn to adjust until she is in a safe environment according to their parameters. Not that the person who harassed her must be punished for what he has done and to see to it that he does not repeat it. Though there are remedies available with the law, for women facing sexual harassment at workplace, the safety is not assured even after so many years. Food for thought, there is a need for various guidelines and an act just to safeguard women on the working front. Why is it so hard for a woman to achieve the same freedom and opportunities that a man gets with not much of an effort? Conclusion. The constitutional principles of equality and liberty have been upheld by the Honorable Supreme Court of India in the Vishaka judgment. The inception of the law against sexual harassment has inspired many women to raise their voices against the suffering that they were silently subjected to until the year 1997. Vishaka guidelines formed the basis for the establishment of the Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Act, 2013. The true spirit of judicial activism has been portrayed in the Vishaka judgment and it has been an inspiration to other nations. However, Banwari Devi, the spark that ignited the need for appropriate legislation to safeguard women against sexual harassment, even after 2 decades, is still awaiting justice to be served. It is paramount to take note of the fact that, though such comprehensive laws have been enacted to safeguard women in India, it still ranks as the most dangerous country for women. Maybe it is time to question ourselves, is it the law or is it us that must be responsible? The case Vishaka and Ors v. State of Rajasthan and Ors is a landmark judgment by the Supreme Court of India, which laid the foundation for the protection of women from sexual harassment at the workplace. Here's an overview of the case. Background. The case was filed in the aftermath of a horrific gang rape of a social worker named Banwari Devi in Rajasthan in 1992. Banwari Devi, a government employee, was targeted for trying to prevent a child marriage as part of her duties. Despite the crime, justice was denied to her due to systemic failures. This prompted women's rights groups, including Vishaka and others, to approach the Supreme Court, seeking remedies and safeguards for working women. Key issues. 1. The absence of effective legislation addressing sexual harassment at workplaces in India. 2. The violation of fundamental rights guaranteed under Articles 14, 15, 19, and 21 of the Indian Constitution. Judgment. The Supreme Court, in a groundbreaking decision. 1. Recognized sexual harassment at the workplace as a violation of fundamental rights. 2. Issued guidelines, known as the Vishaka Guidelines, to address sexual harassment until proper legislation was enacted. The Vishaka Guidelines. The court defined sexual harassment broadly and mandated the following. Establishment of a complaints mechanism in workplaces. Creation of a complaints committee, with a majority of women members and an external NGO/third-party representative. Sensitization and awareness programs to prevent harassment. Timely redressal of complaints. Impact. 1. This case led to the enactment of the Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Act, 2013 in India. 2. It became a cornerstone judgment for workplace safety and gender equality in India. Would you like further details on the judgment, its reasoning, or its influence on other cases? The case Vishaka and Ors v. State of Rajasthan and Ors is a landmark judgment by the Supreme Court of India, which laid the foundation for the protection of women from sexual harassment at the workplace. Here's an overview of the case. Background. The case was filed in the aftermath of a horrific gang rape of a social worker named Banwari Devi in Rajasthan in 1992. Banwari Devi, a government employee, was targeted for trying to prevent a child marriage as part of her duties. Despite the crime, justice was denied to her due to systemic failures. This prompted women's rights groups, including Vishaka and others, to approach the Supreme Court, seeking remedies and safeguards for working women. Key issues. 1. The absence of effective legislation addressing sexual harassment at workplaces in India. 2. the violation of fundamental rights guaranteed under Articles 14, 15, 19, and 21 of the Indian Constitution. Judgment. The Supreme Court, in a groundbreaking decision. 1. Recognized sexual harassment at the workplace as a violation of fundamental rights. 2. Issued guidelines, known as the Vishaka Guidelines, to address sexual harassment until proper legislation was enacted. The Vishaka Guidelines. The court defined sexual harassment broadly and mandated the following: establishment of a complaints mechanism in workplaces, creation of a complaints committee, with a majority of women members and an external NGO/third-party representative, sensitization and awareness programs to prevent harassment, timely redressal of complaints. Impact. 1. This case led to the enactment of the Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Act, 2013 in India. 2. It became a cornerstone judgment for workplace safety and gender equality in India. Would you like further details on the judgment, its reasoning, or its influence on other cases? The Vishaka case is a significant milestone in the history of women's rights in India. It's a testament to the power of activism and the importance of creating a safe and respectful work environment. In this video, we'll delve into the details of this landmark case and explore its lasting impact on Indian society. The case of Vishaka and Ors. The state of Rajasthan is a powerful reminder of the importance of protecting women's rights in the workplace. It highlights the need for legal reforms and the role that ordinary citizens can play in shaping the course of history. Today, we're going to explore the context and significance of this case, and examine the ways in which it has contributed to a safer and more equitable work environment for women in India. Before the Vishaka case, women in India faced numerous challenges in the workplace. Sexual harassment was rampant, and women were often forced to suffer in silence. They lacked a safe and effective mechanism for reporting incidents of harassment, and many were afraid to speak out for fear of retaliation or social ostracism. The absence of clear laws and guidelines meant that women were often left to fend for themselves, with little recourse to justice. This created a toxic work environment, where men often felt emboldened to engage in harassing behavior with impunity. The lack of effective legal protection meant that women were often forced to quit their jobs or alter their career paths to avoid harassment. This not only affected their economic well-being but also limited their opportunities for personal growth and development. Many women were hesitant to report incidents of harassment due to the fear of being stigmatized or ostracized by their communities. This lack of support and resources made it difficult for them to access justice. The social and cultural norms of the time also contributed to the widespread tolerance of sexual harassment. Many people viewed it as a normal or even acceptable part of workplace culture, rather than recognizing it as a serious violation of women's rights. In this context, the Vishaka case was a beacon of hope for women across India. It marked a turning point in the fight against sexual harassment and paved the way for significant legal reforms. The case was filed by a group of women's rights activists, including Vishaka, who were determined to challenge the status quo and create a safer work environment for women. They argued that the absence of clear laws and guidelines was a violation of women's fundamental rights, including their right to equality and dignity. The petitioners presented a compelling case, highlighting the need for clear guidelines and legal protections to prevent sexual harassment in the workplace. They urged the court to recognize the severity of the problem and take steps to address it. The respondent, the state of Rajasthan, argued that existing laws and regulations were sufficient to address the problem of sexual harassment. However, the petitioners countered that these laws were inadequate and failed to provide sufficient protection to women. The court heard arguments from both sides and deliberated on the matter. In 1997, the Supreme Court delivered a landmark judgment that would change the course of Indian history. The court ruled that sexual harassment at the workplace was a violation of women's fundamental rights, including their right to equality and dignity. It emphasized the need for clear guidelines and legal protections to prevent sexual harassment and ensure a safe work environment for women. The court established guidelines for preventing sexual harassment, including the creation of a complaint committee, the provision of counseling services, and the implementation of sensitization programs for employees. This ruling was a pivotal moment in Indian legal history. It marked a significant shift in the way society viewed sexual harassment and recognized the need for concrete actions to prevent it. The Vishaka Guidelines have had a lasting impact on Indian society, contributing to a safer and more equitable work environment for women. They have also inspired similar reforms in other countries, making them a landmark achievement in the global fight against sexual harassment. Today, the Vishaka case remains an important milestone in the struggle for women's rights in India. It serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of activism, advocacy, and legal reform in creating a more just and equitable society. The ruling has also played a crucial role in shaping Indian society's attitudes towards sexual harassment. It has helped to create a culture of zero tolerance towards harassment and has encouraged women to speak out and demand justice. In conclusion, the Vishaka case is a testament to the power of activism and advocacy in creating positive change. It highlights the importance of protecting women's rights and creating a safe and respectful work environment. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to share your thoughts on this landmark case in the comments below. If you're interested in learning more about recent developments in women's rights legislation, be sure to check out our next video.